Alright, here's a little video to remind you a couple of things. As you once you've finished all your routing, it's always important, one, to first do a design rule check. So we're going to check that. We want to make sure it's doing all these. Click. And we've got a crap ton of errors. So we have to see what they are. So we've got one issue of silk to silk. And we've got 36 minimum solder mask sliver. Alright, so the important ones you want to look at is that you don't have any unrouted and that you don't have any short circuits. Why you would allow short circuits, I'm not entirely sure. Short circuits are generally a bad thing. So we can actually just go ahead and get our board manufactured. This minimum solder mask, all these rules, they have to do with, all these violations have to do with the rules that we've set up. So this isn't going to prevent the board from working. This just has to do with the solder mask sliver, so the amount of space between solder, the solder mask in the gaps, and this has to do with something, the silk screen. So let's first deal with this silk to silk clearance. So we're going to go back to here. I'm going to go to the design rules and manufacturing, silk to silk clearance. So there, we're going to do that. So I have it set up as 10 mils, and so we can actually go through. Let's actually cancel it. Let's see what the violations are. So if I click on that, and then so we're just gonna randomly select this one, and it should bring us. So if that has to do with silk to silk, it's probably going to do something like this. So this might say there's some kind of violation. Yeah, so this is the sliver violation, and the silk to silk is probably this, but this is just within the design. So what we're going to do, we're going to go back to the design rules, and we're just going to change this arbitrarily to 5. See if that fixes it. Click OK, or apply, then OK, and just to see if it's actually changed, I'm going to go ahead and close that. I'm going to run my design rule check again. So click, and hopefully, oh, yep, we got 36. So took care of the silk to silk. Now we've got 36 of the, it's going to be the same error you've already seen. So this is the minimum solder mask sliver. It's a tongue twister. Sally sells seashells by the seashore. So this also has to do with, let's go into 3D mode. This has to do with, if I can get it, this little tiny sliver. This the green part is the solder mask. So what we can do, we can reduce the solder mask expansion, or we can just say, well, I don't really care about the solder mask sliver. So we're going to go back to 2, and let's just make a nice pretty picture in the middle. Alright, so I'm going to go back to my design rules, and so we can go back to mask. So we can do solder mask expansion. So this says how far apart the solder mask goes from the actual metal part. So this again, of course, it has to do with the design or the manufacturability of the actual from the actual manufacturer. So if we go to, let's see, solder mask. So here we have solder mask opening / expansion of 0.05 millimeters. So that's going to be pretty small, 0.05 millimeters. So it's basically 2,000th of an inch, or 2 mils. So that's going to be pretty tiny. So we can actually go back and we can say 2. Click apply. Click OK. And just so I don't get too many reports, close that, and we're just going to run the design rule again. I don't think this will take care of it because I think that was the design rules was 10 mils or something like that, so we're going to run it anyway. Yeah, so we still get, oh, we get 52 errors. How do we make more? Minimum solder mask sliver. Oh, that makes sense. Alright, so let's go back hold on. Minimum solder mask sliver gap equals, okay, so we didn't actually change the gap, we just changed the solder mask itself. So let's actually just take a look at that real quick. So here, as you can see before, we've actually made this sliver a little wider. The advantage of that is that when you actually apply solder to this, the solder mask it really prevents the solder bridge from occurring between these two. So having a solder mask in between here is definitely something that we want to have. So we're going to go back to 2. Then we're going to do our design rules. It's actually, design rules. And minimum solder mask sliver. And let's just change this to, and again, this just has to do with the design. I don't know, let's just change it to 2. And click OK. Apparently that didn't do anything. Oh, wait, no. Interesting. Alright, well. Close. Run the design rule check. Run it. Alright. We've got no violations. And again, that doesn't mean that our circuit's going to work. It just means that the rules that I've set up based off of the manufacturer, I am not in any violation. So assuming that I've done all my work, that it's a 0.2 millimeters, which was, what was that? No, that was something else. 0.28 mils. And we should be good. So this means the rules that I've set up based off of the manufacturer's capabilities is manufacturable. Whether it works or not, that's your responsibility.